say, how are you doing today? How are you doing today? I am your host, Lacey G. Soldier Turner. And today I have a very special guest with me. We're about to talk about some things. We got the wonderful, amazing, talented Amond Prater, man. Welcome to the platform.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. So before we get into what I want to talk about, I want to let the people get to know you a little bit. So can you tell the people where were you born and raised, and how was your upbringing as a child?
Okay, so I'm originally from Marietta, Georgia. I tell people Atlanta because people aren't familiar with the greater metro area. So I say, hey, I'm from the ATL. I still represent it all the way out here in St. Louis, Missouri. Wrestling is what brought me to the Midwest. I had a wrestling scholarship to the University of Missouri. In high school, I was an athlete, but wrestling was my sport of choice. So I was the first Black state champion for my high school, actually, McEachern High School in Powder Springs, Georgia. And after I left Mizzou, I met my wife, who's from St. Louis. So that's kind of why we settled in St. Louis, Missouri. But I think I attribute it to my parents kind of pushing me to kind of expand my horizons. I traveled a lot for wrestling, so I already knew that I needed to leave the state to get a better opportunity to compete at a higher level. And so I really appreciate those lessons. They kind of taught me from, being a good student athlete. My mom was on me. It's like, hey, you got to graduate with honors, and nothing less, than that would have, been, that was the standard. So.
Okay. So I know I'm pretty sure you've been in St. Louis for a while. So for those who've never been to St. Louis and they hear about the murder rate and all this and they scared to come to St. Louis, what can you tell the people about St. Louis who might want to come but be scared?
I think that St. Louis gets a bad rap. I think that where I'm located, I feel extremely comfortable where I'm at in terms of just people who look like me. And it's a way that you communicate with people that really kind of breaks down barriers. And so the way I grew up, the school I went to was predominantly white. So I would have been looked crazy, kind of being like, hood, like talking weird, slang and everything. So I really had to shift my focus and my narrative so that I could unlock more opportunities. And St. Louis is very full of creative people. Where it's so spread out that people only get to see one snippet of what it offers, and oftentimes it's places you usually don't need to go. And that's with any city. You find those pockets of area, and unfortunately, it overshadows us because of that's what they wanted. That's what wants to dominate the media. But it's so many connections that I built in St. Louis, especially in the sports community, and the notable people that actually come out of St. Louis. I invite them to just make sure they have an idea of what they want to know more about, whether it's arts, whether it's music, whether it's sports, from the coaching aspect. There's a ton of opportunities in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I heard that y'all ain't gotta be scared. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
But look about so I know in school you did cross country, wrestling, and track and field.
Yeah.
What made wrestling stick out the most to you?
I think it was I started playing football, right? And so if you look at, you always look at the parental profile to see is like, oh yeah, they're gonna be tall, they're gonna be big, they're gonna be a football player, basketball player. I didn't have that profile, and it really didn't take me very long to figure out, what, I'm not gonna be like Deion Sanders. Because he played for the Falcons at the time when I was growing up. And so he was a dude, I was like, I'm gonna be just like him when I grow up. And reality hit, I was like, hey, you're not going to be more than, 5'5" tall, and wrestling was one of those avenues where my coach, like after we had lost our semifinal football game, he was like, hey, wrestling trials start. Well, I didn't tell my parents that I had signed up. And so the day of practice, I was like, hey, can you drive me up to wrestling practice? It was like, what? Yeah, I signed up for wrestling. And so it was a sheer just like happenstance that a coach pushed me to do it. And I found some success. Not in my first year. I didn't win a match my first year, but my second year wrestling really kind of to start to pick up and use my God-given abilities to kind of make some headways into the sport. I ended up on varsity for all 4 years at high school, and I was a two-time state placer. So
yeah. Yes. I wrestled in high school myself. I went to
Yeah.
some. I went to state, but I ain't win. But you won the individual state title in 2002 also.
Yeah.
So how was
Yeah.
that feeling? How was that feeling when you won?
I think it was a culmination of all the people that believed in me. Obviously, the support. My dad was taking me to off-season tournaments. We went to wrestling camps. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes down to winning that moment, and everybody doesn't have an opportunity to do that. So I was well prepared from having come up short my junior year because I took third my junior year, and so my coach just kind of implanted, the idea of like, hey, they ain't just gonna give you a state championship. You got to continue to keep working hard. And thankfully, my parents were supportive. They took me to the extra stuff. They had me at workouts on time. I didn't have to find a ride for anything. I didn't struggle in that aspect. So having that support system kind of really helped me kind of achieve that goal of winning the state title.
Nice. So look, I wrestled 119 in high school, right? I was super strong, so
Yeah.
everybody knew I could. Everybody knew I just, I used to bait them and pin them, right? So
Yeah.
my opponent, I had beat him before, so he studied me, so he knew what to do. So he outsmarted me in the match. He just kept
Ah,
on shooting, taking me down, and let me up. So he would never let me get a hold of, him, and he won by point. So, but about what got you
oh
into
my, yeah, yeah.
what got you into powerlifting? Can you hear me?
So I
Oh,
it was when I went to Mizzou. Yeah. When I went to Mizzou, I was known. I basically was known as pound for pound the strongest athlete on campus,
mhm.
and that's a measure of the strength index where they take your highest number of your body weight of your squat, your deadlift, and your bench press, and then your power clean. And so for what I weighed, because I wrestled 133 in college, for what I weighed, I shouldn't have been lifting the amount of weight that I should have, and they take those overall numbers and they come up with the strength index. Football players were pissed. They didn't they didn't want to be a wrestler on top. But yeah, I beat out one of my good buddies, Marcus James. He was a cornerback for Mizzou, and
Mhm.
we would compete every year, for the title essentially. So naturally, after I got done competing in college, I needed to find something that allowed me to continue to pursue just strength training, health and fitness and wellness. And I really enjoyed that. So I think that was a natural progression where it was the American Drug Free Powerlifting Federation that kind of really drew me in because there were some local competitions that I could get to. And actually, they had a couple meets that they hosted at Mizzou, so it kind of gave me a chance to get back to the campus and just continue to compete. So
Okay. So I saw in 2013 you started A Train Performance.
mhm.
How did they come about?
It was a conversation where another good friend of mine, Tyron Woodley, he was actually my college teammate at Mizzou, and so we both wrestled at Mizzou. Well, he was starting his own gym at the time, which was ATT Evolution, a division of American Top Team, and so he was like, "Hey, man, you need to go ahead and start your brand because if you're going to be training, you need to start getting your clientele and start getting your brand out there." And so I was like, "Bet." So that's where A Train Performance came in. My friend Ray Pratchett, he got my logo going. He was another guy that used to come to the gym, and that's kind of thing about the community. It's like all kind of hidden talents that come out at the right time. And it was just a divine godly connection that he happened to be there. Tyron being in my life at the time, really kind of pushing me to kind of start my company. And so that's what I did. I built A Train performance out of the fires I was training, running some of his fight camps, just kind of getting firsthand experience on trying to build my platform.
Okay. So with that, I know you did a lot of strength and conditioning plans for MMA fighters and NFL players. So how was that? Like, did you get to meet some of these, even though you built the phone, did you get to meet these people and work out with them?
So the guys that trained with me, so we did a little bit of combine prep. So we had a couple guys that were trying to get to the pros. Robert Steeples is the guy that I primarily work with. He was a guy out of St. Louis, coached at DeSmet High School. played a couple seasons for the Vikings and the Cowboys. We basically were trying to get him to meet his numbers because you had to report back to camp in shape. So he would train with me in the off seasons to make sure that he was getting his numbers. And when he got back, he was strong. He would always, he stayed with me because the workouts that we did, they were a little more endurance based as well as strength. So we did a little high rep, training. We did some boxing workouts as well. Him being a defensive back, he had to be physical. So we tried to incorporate it in that aspect. But I think, again, just the fact that, I got invited to, the Rams camp, when he was with the Rams, it was cool. It was cool kind of seeing that and the fact that he trusted me enough to keep coming back to me for the seasons he was in. And we still have a great connection to this day. He's down at LSU right now training. But I think that, again, kind of set me on a path like, hey, man, I can do this. We can get results. So.
Okay. So I know you coach wrestling also. So what would you say is the difference between coaching and actually being on that mat?
It's not the same mentality. You have a different generation of kids who grow up with different challenges they have to overcome. And so the things that we went through as athletes aren't the same thing that they struggle with. And so you have to put that in perspective as you're coaching, because if you tell them to do it the way you did it, then you're going to miss some steps and they're not going to understand, like, why can I get through this moment right now? Why can't I, my parents are divorced, or, I ain't got no food at home. Like, coach, like you telling me I gotta, run, be at practice on time at 6 a.m. There's so many different situations that you have to account for before they even get to that level of, okay, now I can put in the extra time. Now I can go to all the extra camps. And that starts with the belief system. So I think that I knew that at an early age in my career. Is like, you had to meet them where they were at. You can't just go start telling them, hey, do this, do this, do this, without understanding where they're coming from. And the beauty of us is that we're athletic to where we don't have a very large learning curve. And so I'm so about making sure that we as Black people get into something where we can excel in, because it's our natural abilities that really give people issues. And so when we cultivate that and we grow that to where they know some people that they're going to have somebody in their corner, man, it just unlocks so many opportunities and so much potential for them. And so, again, that's kind of the main difference between being an athlete and a coach. Where I've been at the top, I know, what to do to get there. But again, it's just navigating all those other challenges that they have to do before they even get to practice.
Gotcha. Yes, that's real talk. So,
Yeah.
On your journey, you've done a lot. What would you say has been your greatest challenge?
Keeping my wife happy.
Gotta keep the ladies happy.
Yeah, gotta keep my wife happy. We've been blessed. I have 4 kids. We've been married for 16 years, and she was a keeper from day one because we met in college while I was wrestling. So she's not new to this lifestyle of coaching. And she really kind of gives a lot of herself to make sure that I can continue to do what I do. So I have to make sure that the balance, making sure that my kids know that I'm there. They need to see me. My wife also needs to feel supported as well. It's still a challenge because as much as I have my 4 natural kids, I've got all these other athletes, that I work with, that I train with as well, that at the drop of the hat, if they need a session, I'm going to go do it, and so I think that that's the number one priority, making sure that my household is taken care of and making sure that they feel supported the same way that I support my other athletes.
Okay, yes. So, to flip that, what would you say has been your greatest accomplishment?
Greatest accomplishment would be actually getting my clients, starting my business. I think that when I set out to do this, I knew that I had the ability, but the fact that, I'm getting responses, I'm getting recommendations, I'm getting to showcase, all the things that go into making who I am. It was just a natural inclination, because when you're in a system, and you're in an organization, oftentimes you're still limited because of their brand, right? You're building their brand. So when I had the opportunity to continue to expand my brand, the fact that I've got top level athletes training with me, the fact that we're still growing, and I can call it mine. I think that it's pretty cool to kind of see that. And then at the same time, everything that I'm doing, in my church, everything I'm doing in, my mentoring, I just love how this kind of gives me that platform to have unlimited potential to expand.
Okay. So let me ask you this: what advice would you give to a person, a youth who wants to wrestle, but maybe scared, don't know what he want to do? Real, what advice would you give him?
I think that it's more so like what life lessons can we show them, right? I think that because of how I live my lifestyle and how I interact with people, I want them to be able to see like, hey, this is all because I was involved in something. And so we want them to take that chance on getting in, whether it's wrestling or not, get involved so that you have connections.
Mm-hmm.
And so, many times, again, going back to our black young men, they don't have that example of someone just sitting down and talking to them about what success looks like. And success isn't money. Success isn't money. Success is being a father. Success is, being a husband. Success is, being able to not even graduate, but just have a career.
Yeah.
And it's not all, you know, glamorous, but there's people that if you need to talk to, we want to be that segue and that connection for them. So again, my advice is just take a chance on something.
Mm-hmm.
Take a chance on getting involved in something. And again, you have to know, what your worth is going into it. And you can't let anybody allow you to keep your head down when you're walking. You have to build that confidence and know that what you are bringing to the table is yours. That's what God implanted in you. And that's what's going to make you successful, not what everybody else wants you to do.
That's right.
And so we want to establish that confidence early on in life, and hopefully they take that chance on getting involved in something.
That's right. Okay. Do you have anything coming up that you want to promote?
Again, I think for me, it's just more so we do have our scheduled classes on Monday and Wednesdays, 5 to 6 p.m. for anybody looking for strength training and conditioning. Our wrestling season is full underway. I do have an athlete that is trying to make the Olympic team. Her name is Destiny Garrick. So my YouTube channel, we want to follow her story as she continues. She took a 3 year hiatus, and I think I mentioned like she was weighing probably like close to 230 pounds, and her weight class is 76 kilos, which means she had to weigh in at 167 and a half.
Wow.
And so we started training with her in January. She just had her first competition in November where she weighed in at 169 because they got plus 2 kilos. And we just want to make sure that we get behind her, support her, as she tries to make a national team as a Black woman. And so my purpose in having the wrestling club for my women is so that they have those opportunities in our sport, because you really don't see a lot of us in the sport. And so I want to make sure they have that opportunity to see high level competition, get coached by high level, coaching, and then just kind of build that confidence. So again, specifically, I love to promote my strength training, and then as well, the wrestling from the wrestling standpoint. If people are looking for a wrestling club that starts in March and goes all the way through the summer, please consider A Train Performance Women's Wrestling Club.
Mm. Okay. So let the people know where they can find you at. How can they get in contact with
Yeah, so I'm my website, www.atrainperformance.com. I'm also on Instagram at A Train Performance, and you can also find me on Facebook at A Train Performance as well, or you could just find me at Amond Prater. So I think that from the standpoint of seeing me in your community, I think that we're setting the bar really high. I think I mentioned as well that I'm the head coach for Team Missouri women's national team. And so we just won our first national title
you?
last year in in Oklahoma, and so we're looking to kind of grow the sport even more on the Missouri stage, and I'm so happy that I'm able to kind of lead that charge as well. So.
Okay. All right, Mr. Amond Prater, my last question that I like to ask all my guests. When it is all said and done and you are long gone from this earth, what is it that you want the people to know about Amond Prater?
Man, that my life is that I love my family and I love God.
Mm,
I think that, that's kind of the mission behind why I like to be connected and I love communication, because you don't know how you're going to impact somebody, but you're necessary. You're worth it. And I want people to feel that when they have an interaction with me. And it's not because of they're feeling that, but they're feeling the love of Christ that I want to share with everybody. And I want my family to know that I love them, and I want that to be represented in all my interactions as well.
okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Amond Prater. I appreciate you giving me your time today.
Yes, sir.
And I would definitely let you know when we drop this article and this video interview.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
All right, you have a good day.
All right. Thanks.
All right, peace out.